Well, hi everybody. This should be a lot of fun. Super excited to be joining for this session. This is a really fun one, in particular, near and dear to my heart because I love this medium in particular, and I'm really excited about really what each of the panelists have to say. And I wanted to kick off with Shannon because I've had the pleasure of working with Shannon a lot over the last several years, and I figured maybe what we can do is start by giving some context to some of the stuff that Shannon has done. So I'm just going to play a very quick video, but there's lots of stuff that Shannon's been doing, from video to VR to you name it, to games and so on and so forth. But let's start. Let's just start with this real quick, and we'll take a minute just to see some of the stuff that she's been doing lately. Oh, let me actually. Sorry, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to actually share my sound because that will be much better. Okay. There we go.
Hey, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the Journey Digital Experience, and welcome to Train the Trainer 2021. This is the year we renovate and restore, but I'll talk a little bit more about that at the meeting. I am so excited for you to experience this incredible platform and learn so many cool things. First, I want to take you to the makeup section. Welcome to the makeup section. I'm so excited for you to spend some time in here and get a little bit of creativity going on. Welcome to the skincare section. I'm so excited for you to experience and learn all the cool things we have when it comes to skincare. If you have a problem, we want to be the brand that solves it, and that is going to be our bye-bye room. I'm excited for you to go into each of these rooms, learn some cool stuff, and go back to create trainings that will inspire all of your people. But there's one other room that is really important to me, and that is the restore room. The last couple years, and also all the things that have changed for us, have been a little exhausting. So this room, my hope is that you go in and there's some really cool experiences that will help to relax you, to inspire you, and I can't wait for you to spend some time in there. So 7 rooms for you to learn about new information, to get inspired to go back to your country, and also to motivate you to make IT Cosmetics education the best education. I can't wait for you to explore everything and tell me all about it. Enjoy.
So I'm really excited to talk to Shannon because, one, Shannon has just gotten back from like a world tour. I think she's been gone for the last few weeks in just Asia or elsewhere, Shannon?
Southeast Asia, so Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand. Okay,
so definitely had your passport clicked quite a bunch.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I wanted to maybe you can just do a quick introduction of yourself, and then we'll get into a handful of questions if that works.
Yeah, that sounds great. So hi, everybody. So glad to be here today. I have such big love for eLearning Brothers. And my name is Shannon Pirie. I am the Group Vice President of Global Education for IT Cosmetics. I also moonlight as the Global Brand Ambassador for the brand as well. So I speak on behalf of the brand everywhere. But it's been an honor to kind of grow into what education does. So you heard the MC earlier talk about that I have a master's in clinical counseling. So I've taken a lot of what I learned working with ADHD boys. That was my expertise, how to get them in a room and actually talk about what's going on. I never mastered it. I'll say that right now. But what I had to do in this way of getting them to play basketball, to run around a room, and then to be able to teach them life skills. And so I have taken all of that on top of all of my experience within working in the world of cosmetics to be able to train and educate people in open cell environments. So if you've ever entered an Ulta or a Sephora or even a Macy's, you have people that work for the brand and they are educated on every single brand that is in that room. And how do I make it so they remember my brand? It is the biggest challenge that keeps me on my toes every day. And that's kind of a little bit of what I did. So we'll talk probably more about how I started to go digital, because obviously you can't reach 36 countries one by themselves. It's just impossible. And cloning hasn't happened yet. So
let's start there. Maybe if you can give a little bit of the history of what you've done, what media you started with in your training, how you've evolved over the years, and we'll start there, if that sounds good.
So cosmetic education was very, I would say, historically very, classroom style. So you would come in and we would be the life of the party, blah, 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 blah. And it was typically like an 8-hour training. And that is what I had done in my previous jobs and careers, and had done that. And when I had just the US, so I work for It Cosmetics. I don't know if you know about us, but we've exploded in the last, I've been with the brand 8 years. So when I joined the brand, nobody knew who they were. Now it's the #1 brand in the United States, #1 in, I mean, there's a slew of them. We're just big. And in the beginning, I had, 46 educators in the US, and it was very easy to control and make sure that the correct content was getting out into stores. As we started to launch in other countries, it became almost impossible. And really, the biggest challenge was the time zone. So they had a training they were doing, and they're emailing me at 2 a.m. like, hey, I can't download this content. And I'm like, 2 a.m. I don't know what's going on. I'm asleep. So this challenge of like, how do I support these educators to make sure they have all of the stuff they need to do? So previously that was a lot of it. And there was this thing of like, okay, we need to get digital. We need to go on that. And that's where Stephen and I met. I met with so many agencies, and I'm sure they probably didn't really like me, because at the end of their pitch, and they tell me all this, I'd say, you just checked the box. I was bored through most of this presentation. So if I'm bored in your presentation, how am I going to get someone who has 150 other brands to actually want to listen to what I'm saying? And for me, there was this part of like, I'm not very digital in the sense of what you guys do, but I am really good in a classroom, and I know how to capture an audience. And so there was this part of, for me, like, how am I going to find an agency that will work with me and think outside the box? I know this is what digital learning is doing, but everybody hates it. I work for L'Oreal. Like, half of us don't even do half of I think I got an email this morning about the 6 trainings I haven't done. I don't care to do them. I don't want to see your typical, let's act out why you shouldn't open up an email that you shouldn't open. No, just like move along. And so there was this thing for me of like, how do I take what is so good in a classroom and bring it digitally? And I think that has been the biggest challenge as I've continued to evolve it. And I think, Stephen and I started, what was it, like 5 years ago now?
Yeah.
And every 6 months, it's like, I got to change it. So it's like, it becomes old very fast. And how do I continue to capture my audience, who is a hard audience to capture?
Well, let's talk about that, and not even specifically the work that we've done together, although happy we should talk about that. But I'm curious, specifically when it comes to video. How have you used video? Where have you used it most effectively? Where do you think it has a place at the table for the work that you're doing?
Yeah. So I've always been a fan of video. I've always, in the world of cosmetics, especially in open sell, you create these videos that you would send to the retailer. The retailer plays it on a Sunday morning, and you do all this stuff. I think my challenge is, think about it. It's a Sunday morning. Most of the people who are working in a retail environment probably were out really late the night before. The idea of getting up and coming to work and listening to a training is not their #1 interest. So video started for me in that part. I was with a previous company, Benefit Cosmetics, for a very long time. And so I was starting to create video. So I come from a video background. I don't know if you know this, Stephen. My brother is really big in BuzzFeed. He's now with different agencies and creative stuff. He's made tons of video content. My stepdad made movies. So I've always been around video and have bought into this. And so started to create these like videos that were fun and catchy, and something that wasn't just like, hi everybody, this is my Trident gum. Trident gum is minty fresh. It was more like, let me give you some type of an experience digitally. So video was very important to me. And I continued that when I came here to It Cosmetics and created lots of video content for Ulta to do all this stuff. But I think, one of the things that I don't know if I really like anything from COVID, but the one thing I would be is that it brought a lot more people digital, so in It Cosmetics, we use Teams. That's a big thing with L'Oreal. And, so many people were so hesitant to get on video calls. Like, no one would do it. And I was like, it's, at this point, it's 2018, guys, like, we FaceTime now. Welcome to this world. And so that was the one thing I would say, is that it created this environment that became a lot more normal. You just look at QR codes. Like 2019, I don't think any American knew how to do it. Everyone else outside the world. Now it is a very common thing. We do it in every restaurant. So for me, this part of like, okay, how do I do video content, and how do I do live trainings on a Teams platform, which is my least favorite thing on the planet, but how do I do that? And how do I have these interactions? So I think we started by doing a lot of video content, being able to do that. And it was a big change for me. So as as an educator, I'm really good at reading a room and turning on a dime and changing it and all that. That's probably what I'm really talented at. It's very difficult to do, conversations like this where, I'm glad I'm looking at you, Stephen. Usually I'm looking at myself, which is like the worst confidence killer in the world. Like, how do you continue to know, like, as an educator, like, is this even going well? I can't even see anybody because usually they'll spotlight me. So if I've done Zoom, I'm like, please don't spotlight me. But for everyone else, I get it. But how do you create content and interacting? And how do you get people to use the chat? And how do you get people to interact to polls and all of that things? And it was a massive learning curve of teaching people that, because people didn't know how to do it. And that was really interesting to me, that not only was I responsible to teach on my product, I now needed you to teach you how to use the technology so that it would help me down the road. And that's been, I think, my biggest headache, but it's good.
I know that over time, and we kind of just looked at an example that you moved on to not just using video, but also using virtual reality as a more of an immersive training tool. I'm curious about the strategy behind that and what's worked, what hasn't.
Yeah. So the first interaction I had with it, I think I came to you guys, is that I went as my global brand ambassador role. So my global brand ambassador role is I speak to press. I am the face of the brand. I do all of that. And I go to Mexico and they're like, oh, we're going to do a virtual thing. And I'm like, what are we talking about? I'm making a Sims character. I'm like, what's happening? Are we building houses? What's going on? I was so blown away by this. And the thing to me was the interaction. It felt like as close. It felt like I could get a little bit more live and have conversations instead of this like very cold experience that can happen sometimes on Zoom. And that part, I was like, how do I do this for my educators? So I have 38 educators all over the world. And when I'm doing trainings, I'm just seeing myself. When I'm training, I want to see your face. I want to see how you're reacting to the content, because if you give me a confused look, I know to pivot and change it to do something different. So that part to me was like, it was this little feeling of like a little bit of normalcy. And I was like, I was addicted. I think I called you and Alan and I was like, how do we do this? Of course, in Mexico, I think they did it for like 35 cents and, that's not reality, but that was my first taste of it. And then experiencing it. So all the editors were all these avatars that could stand up. I was in this big room. They could stand up. They could ask me a question. And I loved that. So when it comes to my world, how do you create this that's not too gimmicky? Like, I don't want you to think it's just like, annoying. Or if I create an avatar, the amount of people that got hung up on creating the avatar, I was like, okay, so I'm not going to do that in the beginning, especially of these interactions. And so Alan, who works for the game agency as well, we just kind of sat down and I was like, well, what if we create these rooms? And so that's the video you just saw. What if there's these rooms that are interactive? So I did one for makeup, obviously skills and stuff like that. And I did one for skincare, really helping you to understand what ingredients do. And then I made one that for me was really important, of this restore. So how do you go in and get a little bit of, like, you saw me, like, I laugh at that video. I'm like, my faces sometimes I make. But how do you have these aha moments? And how do I give someone an aha moment in a virtual space that feels so fake already? You're already like, oh, here we go, in that. And so we created content where I had someone do an entire yoga 30-minute thing that they could do. And it was someone from the team. And then I had like confidence mantras written out. And it was just this moment where you walked in, I loved like creating it with Alan, because he'd be like, ooh, what if we get like just that sound of the beach that it could just instantly take you, like I can't do smell, but I can do what you hear, and every single one of those details to create this space that doesn't feel like just another digital space that I don't want to be on, especially because I think of COVID, we became like, I think I became part of my computer. It's like, I just did it everywhere. I worked way more hours during COVID than I ever worked ever. It was like I started at 7 and then at 10. It's like, well, what else was I going to do? So I think for me, it's like, how do I bring the humanity and the empathy in at the same time? And that was kind of like, I think, the win. So I just launched it in December, and everyone was like, wow, I think that was the first reaction. Wow, this is so cool. And then I was like, but have you gone into it? And I think that is the challenge of, I think people are digitally exhausted. So what do we do to help encourage that, not that exhaustion? And for me, it has really been like, have you tried out the Restore Room? I'm not even interested in you learning about the makeup and learning about skincare. I mean, I am, obviously I have to keep the lights on here, but I'm trying to figure out a way to meet your needs in a more humanistic aspect so that then you get used to it and then you'd be more likely to do it. So that's been kind of my learn a little bit of trying to get it all together.
So last question for you, and you kind of started to hit upon this, is employee responses. I imagine that you have a variety of employees with a variety of technical comfort levels, variety of ages, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I'm curious, as you think about new media, video, virtual reality, what are the cautions that you're, and also the digital exhaustion that people will have, right? I mean, I think that that's real, and we all know that. What are the things you're marching towards, maybe marching away from at this point, with all that in mind?
I think the first lens I'm trying to look at is from an empathy lens. Like, I'm really trying to figure out, like, how do we make this feel more humanistic, like connection, especially in my world, because everyone's digital. Everyone's, I see the same thing over and over and over again. And I'm like, I have no desire to do that, and I think my initial reaction, you remember me saying this, is that I wanted it to be as addicting as Candy Crush, and I wanted it to be as interactive as Instagram at the time. And I think the challenge, I think, in a digital world is realizing whatever you thought was great today is not tomorrow, and having that kind of like, I've been learning this a lot in life. Like, you can't be in control. Like, you literally have to release on all things, and I think you really have to release in the digital world to be like, what is the newer trend? And I say this to my team all the time. I don't want to speak Facebook to a TikTok community. And I think oftentimes digital can be dated really fast. So I think that's the first thing I would say for myself is like, is that the new thing? Is that going to work? Asking people who aren't in my space, like, would you watch this? Would you do this? I need to hear outside of my world, because I think that's one of the challenges for any of us in any career is that I call it the ivory tower syndrome. We could get really good at talking to ourselves. And unfortunately, the whole point of digital education is to empower whoever is the learner so that they're confident enough to do the job they're supposed to do. That's my job. My job is not to have the most beautiful backgrounds, although I'm very opinionated. You know this about me. But how do I, at the end of the day, make sure that that person feels confident to do their job? So I think I have to look at it from this empathy aspect and really do things from a different perspective. And I think those are most of my conversations that Alan, who works on the team, of like, he's so digitally smart. He's so that, where my strength is so like the humanistic and the empathy, not that he's not that, but he's just his expertise in a different area. And I think that's where we have found such magic together, because I'm like, that feels cold to me. That feels like, I wouldn't do it, kind of a thing, where he's like, oh, well, what if we did it this way? What if we thought about it this way? And so I think the first thing is constantly being open to change on a daily basis and evolving. You heard in the video, my whole thing is renovate and restore. I'm renovating the entire program. I have so many notes of like, I don't like how this works. How can we make it easier? And then the other thing is I've sat down with a lot of educators. So I was just in Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand, and it was shocking to me how much they didn't know how to use the platform. So I spent 30 minutes going, this is where this is. And then realizing like that categorization doesn't make sense to them. I'm wrong. Not them. I'm wrong. I need to figure out a different way to speak the language that they're speaking. And so I have 38 trainers, all different nationality. Most of them, like, English is not their first language, and everything is in English. I'm an American brand, so that's kind of what happens. So it's kind of those things that, for me, the challenge of like training how to use a platform, I wasn't expecting that. That I think you and I have had that conversation before, and what can I do to make it not feel like every other education digital platform? Because we're digitally exhausted. I mean, I think I read an amazing article that most humans after COVID are literally, their tanks are already so empty. It's why people are so reactionary and so emotional. Makes sense. I'm like, yeah, same. But in the same sense, it's like, I don't want to do another platform when I'm now getting to go back in store and have interactions with people. So how do I do that? And that's where I think the virtual rooms are good, is that I pop in, they're actually seeing me, they're hearing me talk to them. Everyone loves the puff. They always make fun of me that I just puff out. I'm like, that's my favorite part, because it's silly, like there's the human piece to it.
This is great. I encourage everyone, I believe that Jen posted some other examples, some of the stuff that Shannon's doing over at Cosmetics. It's really fun stuff. And quite honestly, it's really inspiring stuff. So please check it out when you have a moment. And Shannon, I appreciate you kicking this session off and sharing some of the best practices. I think we're gonna pivot over to Mark Orlando.
Hey.
Mark, I think you have a whole bunch ready to share, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, I do. I'm gonna share my screen with you. Thanks for having me. Let me just pop this on. And you see that now, guys?
Yes, we do.
Excellent. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my company. I'm with AW Chesterton in Groveland, Massachusetts. And I'm going to talk about how we use the rehearsal video platform to enhance our training. So here we go. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my company, Chesterton, AW Chesterton, about some earlier video training that we did in the past with our in-person training and how we implemented the rehearsal software, the different platform uses that we're now using rehearsal with, and the outcomes that we've had. So let me start with Chesterton at a glance. We were founded in 1884 in Boston, Mass. We're a world leader in helping the process industry companies and improve reliability and efficiency for rotating, stationary, fluid power equipment platforms. We do mechanical seals, packing, sensors, coatings, and industrial lubricants. We have over 1,100 employees in 27 different countries. We have over 500 sales and service locations globally. The industries that we serve include chemical processing, food and beverage, mineral ore processing, pulp and paper, wastewater, power. So a wide array of industries throughout the world that we utilize. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our LMS that we have. Our LMS we call Chesterton University. It's available to Chesterton employees, distributors, customers, and we have all our in-person and online training here on Chesterton University. In pre-pandemic, we probably had about 7,000 users using it, but once the pandemic hit, last year we had over 32,000 users come through and use our online learning platform. So early on when we did training, in-person training, we tried to enhance our training. So people would come in to learn about our products and the different products that we have. They do hands-on in our pump labs, building mechanical seals and putting packing into different pumps. And then what we would do is we would quiz them the next day to make sure they retained what they were learning. We knew that there was a way that we could enhance that by building some video training. So in the last few years, we've embraced video-based training, sales training. I also come from a video background. I used to shoot TV commercials back in the day and produce a live show once a week. So I'm heavy into video. So it's for our video training, it's given feedback to our specialists on the actual sales performance because they could practice the detailed scenarios that were seen in the industries that we serve. So we would give them a scenario and they would have to go home for homework and they would have to record it. So what I did, I built an activity in our LMS in Chesterton University, but building it from scratch, it was a little bit cumbersome for our users. There was lots of instructions that our users had to use. We also got videos that would come in upside down. We would get videos upside down, sideways. There'd be no audio in some of these videos that would come in. And the upload size on it would be huge. Basically, the LMS wasn't built to handle this kind of video upload. And no matter if it was a Mac, if it was a iPhone, an Android, there was different issues that came along with it. So it worked for what we wanted it to, but it was, like I said, it was cumbersome for people to use. There were lots of questions how to use it. And I would have to answer those questions with the live in-class sessions that we'd have the next morning and try to troubleshoot what the issues were with uploading the videos and recording the videos themselves. When we moved to remote learning during the pandemic, we were heavy on webinars, but so in 2020, we did a lot of webinars. We did some in-class training, but it wasn't the same as the in-person training that we did. And we still use some of that video software to build that up, the video presentations, but there was a lot of issues with that. And again, it was tough to answer questions because I couldn't be there in person to help them fix them. I can do it online, but it wasn't as easy. So in 2021, we decided to do some more online sessions, and we knew there had to be a better way for us to upload these videos and to make our salespeople become better salespeople to be able to communicate our products to the customers. So what we did, in 2021, we implemented Rehearsal Software. We found this on by doing a search. My boss, Ron Fassard, and I, we ended up buying 50 licenses at first. We found it was very cost effective for us. It was very intuitive for users to use when we tested it out. So we thought if we could use it, it was going to be easy for other people to use it. Very PC and mobile friendly as well. So what we did with in 2021, we implemented this with our North American Sales Bootcamp first. So with the first time we kicked it off, we had 3 different scenarios that users could do. Once they logged in, once we set up a scenario, they got an email letting them know they could record a video, and we did 3 different homework pieces. They would record an introduction video, then an image statement the next day, then the last day they would describe to their customer, asking 3 probing questions using our sales cycle. And when we first did this, we were, had our fingers crossed when we were launching it, wondering what kind of reaction were we going to get from our salespeople who were recording this videos. What we found is the users found it very, very easy to use. Even our most technologically challenged users, believe me, we have a few, were very comfortable using this. The biggest question I got from the users were, what's my username and password for the site? They could use one click of the mouse to record. They could re-record very easily. They love to get instant feedback. They could get instant feedback from multiple users at a time. I could set up so a sales director could provide feedback, and someone across the globe could provide feedback. They would get an email instantly letting them know that there was a new video to respond to give feedback from our mentors. Again, the mentors were our instructors, our managers, and our sales directors. So anyone you could possibly imagine I could set up as a mentor, and they would respond back and give critiques on these videos to help our salespeople become better prepared to sell, especially in this day and age where you really can't get into some of these companies now. They can't be face to face. They need to be able to communicate to themselves, to our users and to our customers more effectively. And this was one way to do that. The progress from the first video to the last videos that they shot was very noticeable. You saw some people at the beginning be very timid and shy. By that last video that they shot, they were a completely different person. I got comments from users saying that they weren't too certain about how to use the video homework. They weren't certain that that was a good idea. By the end, they loved it. They all loved it. And the videos for me were easy to download. With 50 licenses, I can move people on and off. And with a click of a button, I could download these videos to my OneDrive, and then I could package these videos and send them to the distributors or to the sales team as they needed. So how are we using Rehearsal now? We're using it with an advanced packing school. We're doing a level 1 basic 2-week school that we have. So new specialists come in to learn all product lines that we have. We did that in the spring, in the fall. And we're doing a wastewater industry school. So we're doing complete industry schools. We do that in the spring, summer, and we launched it in APAC. Over in Asia, they love this. It was very easy for them to use. I got hardly any questions from them as well. They were so comfortable with this. One of my users, one of the videos they had to submit was a 4-minute video. He submitted a 19-minute video. He was very comfortable doing it. And the user said that they could re-record just by the click of a mouse. And some of my users who used the previous version that I built said that the difference was immeasurable and was so much easier for them to use. We launched it in LATAM too, down in Latin America, with a sales boot camp for them. We're doing a Colombian distributor school. We're doing another industry school or processing, both in North America, APAC, and another North America sales boot camp. We did a new product specialist training. So any new products that come out, we train them on this, and we give them the scenarios that they need to do to help pitch these products. We're also doing testimonials. We're using this for testimonials, for not only for our North America sales meeting that's going to be next year, but we're doing some in-house training for using this for testimonials. So anyone can pop in remotely and give their video testimonial, and we can download that from there. With these different scenarios, what we do, we've had them ask them to pitch our sales cycle when they're pitching a product. And like I said, since COVID, it's tough to get into some of these businesses So what we'll do is we'll send a image of a pump and ask them to tell us what's wrong with this pump. In the training, each person would be able to ask one question in front of the group to the instructor, who would be the manager of this company, and they would have to ask them one question so they can get answers for this. And then they would have to go take this image and pitch what products that they could use to help fix this pump, and how they could better do this. So with the video work, we were able to critique that. We're helping them to become the best salespeople that they can be in our industry, and it's been really great. So the outcomes that we've had, our specialists and distributors are more confident than ever. They become more confident not only talking about our products and selling our products, but they become better speakers, because we're finding there's less fillers being used. The A's, the R's, and the ums in the videos, they can review the video and they see and hear how they sound. And it's been incredible. Most importantly, our sales have increased. With that new product training that we did last year, sales are up 15% so far for the new product training. And we think we had a lot to do with that by helping our salespeople become more confident in what they're selling. Now I have a library of over 500 videos just in the year and a half we've been using this. I have 500 videos that I have in my OneDrive, and I could package and put together the best videos for sales pitches that I could send out, that we can send out, and show new specialists what they should be sounding like. And we've increased our licenses from 50 to 125. Every single one of our regions wants to have a piece of this. They want to use it. They see the value in what this video training does. HR is talking about using this to maybe vet future employees as well, to see how they pitch, see how they sound selling a product. So in 2022, the rehearsal video has complemented our in-person training. So what they learn in the classroom during the day and with their hands-on during the day, we can reinforce that. We reinforce that by giving them some video homework and verbalizing what they've learned and how they can become better salespeople and more prepared in selling in this environment that we're in today. So that's how I've used video training and how we use it here at Chesterton. And I just really appreciate you guys letting me speak to you about this today. It's been amazing what this video software has done for us in the past year and a half. We've come a long way from the stuff that I built to what we're doing now. So I appreciate you guys taking the time and having me on.
Mark, this is super exciting stuff. I think it's a great case study, and it's also really neat to see how it's being used, around the globe, and how it's being used with such different variety of audiences. Yep. I'm curious, before we pass the baton over to Brigham, I would love to ask you one question, which is, what's next? What do you see as the next step in the evolution, where you want to go with this technology or other technologies as it pertains to video, video feedback, VR, any of the above? It'd be really
we have been talking a little bit about maybe going in VR way, but that might be down the road. But video work, it's immeasurable what we can do. The Europeans want to use it now, and I just got a call from our LATAM group. They want to use this in a couple different ways. So it's not just something that can be used here in North America. It's around the globe that we'll be able to use this. And I see that video is the way to go. It's the way for us to connect from pre-pandemic to this post-pandemic world, that we can bridge the gap, and we can have hybrid training that is going to be more effective, engage more users. And I see video as a trend that's going to stick with us for a long, long time to come.
Well, and I think that both these case studies that we've seen, these first two, are really good examples of how much of our learning today needs to be thought of on a global scale, right? Mm-hmm. Ultimately, it's not just about one market. It's not just about one language. It's not just about one culture. It's really making sure that you can cross all those and you can find the right mediums to help you do that. And just make sure that you can find the right mediums to help you scale,
right?
Because there's going to be nuances for each one of those that you want to keep in mind.
Right.
Well, I think this is great. I will encourage, I saw that, just a reminder, if anyone here has questions, please post them in the Q&A, and either we'll ask, that the panelists jump in with their feedback on them, or I can ask them out loud. While we're waiting, we have one that just came in, so why don't we do that? I'll read it out loud, and then we can kind of move over to Brigham as next. So working with a team that does not have prior video experience, it seems like both the speakers do have prior video experience and knowledge, and struggling to decide on a tool that they can use to create video that doesn't require investment in teaching them all Adobe. What suggestions do you have? List of solutions to overwhelming. And by the way, I will ask that any one of the three of you jump in here. This does not have to be a ELB product by any means. Let's talk about the things that make the most sense for you guys. So I don't want, this is not supposed to be an advertisement. So I'm curious what, maybe each of you guys could jump in, or if any of you have favorites or thoughts, please speak up.
Yeah, like I said, for this video, that stuff that we're using right here with the salespeople we used the rehearsal software, which, like I said, was very intuitive and very easy to use. I build interactive videos stuff with Articulate, and I use Adobe Premiere, which is a little more advanced, but the rehearsal piece was really, really easy to use. Like I said, we have some users who are still really technologically challenged. They still want to use, WordPerfect, but so this was real easy for them to use. I got no issues whatsoever from them. So this, like I said, rehearsal was something that was really easy for us to use.
Okay, super. Shannon or Brigham?
Yeah. For me, I have quite a lot of tools that you could use. Beyond is a big one. I can train someone in Beyond within a week, and they can be up producing videos. A lot of interactive tools out there, which I'll discuss with Adventure and Wirewax and Mindstamp and Echo Studios, and there's a lot of great tools out there where you can be up and running in about a week. So
that's great. And Jen?
From my side, every video has to be professionally done because of the company that I work for. So that's not something that my teams can do. They all have to have it done very professionally done with the production team and all that.
Okay.
But I do like rehearsal. I was a fan of that when I saw them in Vegas. I was like, this is incredible and easy to do for stuff that I could kick out faster.
Well, I appreciate that. Those are all a bunch of good tools, and I see some more questions coming. I'm gonna pass the baton over to Brigham, and then we'll leave some time to answer some of these questions. And Brigham, why don't you take it away?
Awesome, great. Thank you, Shannon and Mark. My name is Brigham Sunday. I am the owner and operator of Storybox Studios. We are a full-service video and animation studio, and most of our work is done in the e-learning industry that we do. And I wanted to showcase just some of our samples that we use and that have created. That will kind of walk through the traditional videos that we do, and also the non-traditional videos that we use. So let me share my screen and kind of walk you through a little bit of this. Okay, so with e-learning videos, like I said, we're a production house, and so we are at the behest of clients. And with that being said, we create a wide array of different videos. The first scenarios, I'll kind of just walk through their more traditional style videos that we use and create for clients. One of the aspects, I'm going to go ahead and just play this one. Our first and most common that we use is just traditional live video scenarios with professional actors, with professional scenarios. This was done for Franklin Covey. And these scenarios were created as little snippets that were eventually put into storyline format and training scenarios. And so we created a whole host of these videos. And there you can see I'm a fill-in for one of the actors there. Sometimes you have to play that role as well. So that being said, live video is still very active, and live professionally made scenario type videos are still quite fun to be involved with. A second one is, let me just move this bar here. Like I said, we have a full service animation studio. And
Today's
so
tailboard is about physical security.
we are also creating a lot of animated scenarios. This is custom 3D animation, which my company does and is quite popular in the industry. So these are 3D scenarios that have been created and crafted. And again, these are implemented and put into storyline and different training scenarios as a little bit more than traditional video, something a little bit more custom, a little nicer to watch. And so 3D is a big option for us as well. Along with that, and I mentioned Beyond. So Beyond is a huge tool for us that we use quite a bit. Beyond has a wide array of, you may have seen Beyond videos, you know, the cartoony characters, but it can actually be used as an editing tool and not have to use a lot of those cartoony characters and have that same kind of look. So on the cheap, you can use Beyond to craft very professional videos as an editor and not have all the experience of Adobe and so forth. So this video is completely crafted using Beyond for, who is this for? I can't even remember. I can't remember either. So this was completely crafted in Beyond. Again, it was created as small little snippets to be put into storyline, but they did not want the cartoony characters, but they still wanted the animation on the cheap. And so we were able to craft this entire kind of explainer video using Beyond, which is a tool of beyond.com, in a very nice and easy way. And so my designer that works for me that created this does not have any experience in Adobe After Effects. He has just been training and learned on Beyond. So again, high quality videos that is offered to the client in a cheap and effective manner using Beyond. With that being said, here's a more traditional version of Beyond that we use. Oops, let me pause that. And so you'll recognize some of the characters and things.
As a finance professional.
So this is Beyond using characters and things like that we also use quite a bit for explainer videos, for e-learning training, etc. So you can do quite a bit with the tool. We even implement aspects of Adobe After Effects and Premiere within Beyond itself. And so to get a little more interactivity within the videos. And those are our traditional ways in which we're using video for e-learning companies and marketing professionals that are reaching out to us. But something that has been near and dear to me and to my heart for the last couple of years is the interactive portion of video. So I've been following the interactive world for quite a while with interactive video for years, with the early emergence of Echo Studios, which was Treehouse back in the day, to Wirewax and to some of these companies. Netflix and a lot of these big companies are trying to figure out how to incorporate interactive videos in their platforms, and the world is changing and evolving pretty quickly, and there's some exciting stuff happening with that. For an RFP that we did, we partnered with ELB actually on this job, so I wanted to kind of showcase this video that we did. This is an interactive video, an interactive RFP that we did for Domino's, and let me just play a portion of this.
Hello, Domino's. Welcome to our interactive video. We are very grateful that you have given us this opportunity to participate in your RFP. My name is Doug, and I am your senior sales rep at ELB Learning. We are a great extra set of hands for helping you create better learning experiences for your learners. We created this interactive video so you can explore as little to as much of what we have to offer above and beyond just creating custom training courses. Click on the slices of pizza to explore more about who we are.
So this is a fully interactive video. It is used through Adventure, which is one of my favorite interactive companies. It's a link that you can just share. It can be embedded into a website. It can, using the API, you can integrate that into any video player that you want. And it's a fully interactive video that can be used to interact with custom icons, which is really cool. So we customized a pizza. We put in some different selections for them. You select one of the
Any type
icons.
of learning course imaginable with Lectora, the most powerful authoring tool on the market. Our design frame.
And it takes you to a little video insert with a description of that process. And so
fun.
it was a fun way to introduce interactivity to a company that was looking for something different. And so we sent this off to them. And again, this has been well received. We're producing these videos quite a bit, interactive videos, and I'll showcase a few of those companies that are doing that. But a really fantastic way to do something a little bit different than programming and, you know, utilizing software development to create interactive videos. You can do that through their own services that they offer. And like I said, this was crafted wholly on adventure, using their adventure player, and
tired
kind of
of boring, ineffective learning.
A really fun tool that they have to use. So with that being said, some of my favorites, let me get out of that one. Some of my favorites out there, Adventure. Debo Harris, who's the owner of Adventure TV, is fantastic, and he's pushing the envelope. He's creating, he's working on new integrations through social media and just some really, really exciting stuff. They recently rebranded several months ago and are making fantastic progress. So that's a tool I would highly recommend out there. Another one, MindStamp is one of my favorites as well. And then my all-time favorite is probably WireWax. And I don't know if you've heard of this already, but I was talking to an executive yesterday with WireWax, and the trajectory of interactive video it's pretty exciting. WireWax was acquired by Vimeo in December of last year, and they're about 3 months out from getting full integration into Facebook, which is huge, because before, all interactive video was being sent to a third party or another location, and you could not integrate directly into social media with Instagram and Facebook and those kind of things. So in essence, you had a post click that would take you to another website, and then you could view an interactive video. But they're about 2 to 3 months away from being fully interactive with their partnership with Facebook. And so it's pretty exciting how interactivity is changing and interactive videos are changing. So that's just a little bit a highlight of some of the video aspects that we're focusing on, that we love to work with, and that we love to present to clients. So any questions?
Brigham, this is great. And, you know, for those of you who haven't had a chance to play around with WireWax or some of the other interactive video formats that Brigham showed, I'd encourage you to, especially if your organization is a DIY organization, I would encourage you to play around with them. A lot of them are low code or no code required, and they really have a lot of flexibility, and they have pricing that is quite honestly very flexible as well. I'm super excited about that stuff. I think a lot of the stuff, Brigham, that your team is doing runs the gamut of neat ways to, one, bring stuff to life visually, and two, really engage the learner on a deeper level, which is I think what we're all here trying to do. I'm gonna pose a few questions if I can, based off of things that were in the chat. Just one question that came up is about video in particular. And I think that this is something that a lot of people can relate to. It takes time and it takes money to produce, but it also can be outdated really quickly, right? And so how, whether as a client or as a partner, I'm curious how your respective teams have dealt with that, right? Because that is something to keep in mind when you're making that investment of time and dollars. Anyone who wants to speak up, please do.
I can go first. I think for me, you know, I'm obviously the client. And so I'm thinking very clearly, like, okay, is this playing out? I mean, the beauty is I know it's coming out the next 3 years as a company, of making sure, but I mean, there's changes that happen, you know, they want to change the packaging. And I'm like, it's changes everything in my entire world. And so I think that is kind of a frustration, but trying to be as proactive as you can is there. But I think also the reality is that is that's kind of what's going to happen. But we try to do that a lot. Like, will this video at least work for a year? That's always my question.
Yeah. I think that's a good metric to think about. Mark, Brigham, do you guys have anything to add on that topic?
Yeah, when we do shoot a video, we want to make sure that there's some longevity in it, that it's going to be able to play down the road. We can do that a lot with like when we doing some instructional videos for mechanical seals and packing. Those things don't change, but it all depends on what the situation is that you're going to be in it and how effective you think it's going to play. Like Shannon said, down the road, a year down the road, is this still going to be viable? So you just got to weigh those options when you're shooting video. And if you do that, you're gonna have to figure out if there's a piece that you could take out, that you can edit out. If you can edit out a certain piece in there, you can still make it viable. You can make changes in it, but you gotta look at that closely and figure out if it's going to be worth the investment.
The next question I have, really, once again, for any of you to address is talking about compliance, 508 compliance, or WCAG 2.1. Some organizations are really strict about this, some are not. This is a question we get at games all the time. I'm really curious when it comes to video and virtual reality and other technologies that you're looking at. One, how much is that impacting your organization? Two, what are you doing to address it when it comes to those technologies? And how are you approaching that?
Well, here at Chesterton, it's something that we've been looking at more closely, especially over for videos over in Europe as well. We got to make sure that that everything's going to be compliant. And we try to make it as compliant as we can, try to get it all there, but we haven't given it as much thought as I think that we're going to down in the future.
Yeah. Brigham or Shannon, I don't know if you have anything to add on that topic. It's a tough one. No. Okay.
I don't.
And that's a tough one. It really is.
Yep.
The next question is just under what circumstances do you find the best opportunities to use video for your training? When does that medium kind of come to the top? And certainly, can you talk about your process of storyboarding and what topics and how you're approaching it overall?
I can go first there. When we look at upcoming training, we want to figure out what's the best way that we can keep our students and our participants engaged. What's going to keep them most engaged? If we can add video to the session, if it's going to be just an online session, we want to be able to engage them, make sure that they give us some feedback, that we know that they're getting the best possible training that they can get, and that they're actually retaining their learning. It's a lot easier for us to do that when we're in person. Like I said, you saw some of our hands-on training that we can get those visual cues back and forth. You can kind of get them when people have the cameras turned on. A lot of people won't turn the camera on. So, and when we're doing videos, we got to plan that out. Like we're doing a video for later on in the fourth quarter for an in-person training, and not in-person, an in-house training that we're going to be doing, and for a whole company wide. And we have to give plenty of time to storyboard that out, to plan it out, what the script is, what the storyboard is, and we have to get those approved. So it takes some time. So you have to give yourself enough leeway when you're planning these trainings. If you're going to do video, that it's not something that's going to be done in a week or 2 weeks. You have to make sure that you get everything scripted out, storyboarded out. Then you got to shoot and edit too. So, and shooting and editing isn't an easy task, and creating voiceovers if you got to do that too. So it's all about making sure you have enough planning time, and don't cut yourself short on your planning time when you're doing videos.
Yeah,
I wish I had all that timing. I might need to come work for you. So my world's a little different. I would say this. So video is a non-negotiable. It has to happen for every launch. I think the challenge for me is I have to work with my marketing team to make sure the video that they're creating has a lot of education in it. So that takes a lot of negotiation and getting in there. I find too, the other thing I find really interesting is that when I travel and go in there, so for instance, I was just in Malaysia, I did 10 videos in 2.5 hours. And it was like a go. And so it was that part of like, how do I bring what I do in person online and in quick? You know, I think that's the other challenge for me. My videos can't be more than, I mean, they'd like them to be 15 seconds, to be honest. And how do I get them to, like 30 seconds is like, who has the times of that? But I don't have the flexibility to do 1 minute or 2 minutes. I've got 30 seconds max and I'm pushing it. So for me, it's like, what's the sound bite that's going to help that learner to be able to sell that product? Not all the fluff. What's the sound bite? And so that has been a little bit of the challenge of like where, you know, I come from that storyboarding. And I think that's so important. And I think the editing and all that, everything you said, I was totally aligned with you, Mark. But I think we are moving also at the same time into this like snippets. You know, I think in my world, it's like, can you make a 6-second video about this? And I'm like, I can't even say my name in 6 seconds. So I don't understand how this happens. But, you know, the attention span is like worse than a gnat. And so how do I get somebody as fast and quick? And I think that where I have learned, it has to be a soundbite. What's the thing you remember? You know, like, you know, I think the first thing I thought about is now I want Domino's pizza when you were presenting that. So like, you know, how do I do that? So that's been the challenge, I think, for me with video is that I don't have the luxury of time anymore. And that's challenging.
I think that's common, right? I'm gonna pose one, maybe two more questions. One of the questions that came up is any suggestions on design planning, meeting with SMEs, setting up deadlines. What are the things, storyboarding things? What are the things that are must-haves as you guys are thinking about video, VR, new media to really make sure that your process is successful?
For us, that typical process with that, we don't move on to video until obviously everything is cemented in place. We see a lot of videos being produced that should not have left pre-production, and that's a mistake. And so with us, it's crucial to get that team together early, to bounce ideas off one another. And my team, for example, we produce not only storyboards, but along with pre-visualization, but we produce animatics. So fully video animatics with scratch voiceover to kind of showcase how this is going to look and feel. We produce a look and feel branding guide so they know how it's going to look and how it's going to be. And we don't move forward at all with video until that is fully approved. And so that's a very crucial aspect of producing video.
I think the challenge from a client, you know, I think working with what you're saying, Brigham, is that one of the challenges I think between agency and client is that the client's mind and your mind as an agency can be off sometimes. And I find that as a client, I've really had to learn to figure out a way to put my mind on paper. So like I literally sketch in PowerPoint. This is how each thing needs to look. This is what I'm seeing, so that to help you as an agency or whoever you're the provider to actually understand that. I see it all the time. We work with so many agencies here at L'Oreal, and they'll send back a video and everyone's like, oh no. And I'm like, well, can I see the brief? You know, and it's a Word document. I'm like, this word can mean multiple things. And so I would say from a perspective, I think even an agency is creating some type of process to help the client who does not have an education or does not have a video background on how to actually give you what you need. And I think that I love that, you know, something shouldn't live post-production. I mean, I constantly was like, because I come from it, I have a family who's done that. I think I speak that language a little bit better, but most people as a client, they think you can make the video in 30 seconds. Like, oh, just give me a quick edit. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if you only knew, you know, what do you mean they're going to come back tomorrow? And I'm like, because they got to render it. Do you know what that is? You know, but people don't speak that language. And so I think you have to be really, you almost have to educate your client on what you need because they don't know. And I think that was some of the learning I had, you know, with Alan, who on the team for the game agency was going back and forth. And we have a great relationship where I was like, no, that's not what I want. And then I sketched out, he's like, got it. And that was something through a relationship and understanding that world a little bit. But I think that's something I've had to educate my teams that I've worked with different agencies to be like, no, that I don't know. I don't even know what you're saying. So that was my recommendation.
I love that. And along with that, just Jeff Barrett made a comment on here about setting expectations. From the agency side, what happens if you don't set those proper expectations is we play a little game called Guess What's in the Client's Head. And that's not a fun game to play.
No. Well,
very costly.
it's like
Yeah.
version 67. That's what that
Yes.
game is. And then they don't want to pay you for all the versions. Well, no, I'm out of a budget. And so I think that is a very common thing.
Mark,
Yes.
you have some big shoes to fill, because Shannon and Brigham are saying really wise things. You have the last word here, though.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I just want to say, embrace video training, video work. It's something that, especially in this day and age, with now more and more people online interacting, there's people working remotely. Embrace video training, make it interactive, make it interesting for people to use, and they'll embrace it. They will embrace it. It's a medium that I think is underutilized in the training industry, and if you use it correctly, it's very, very effective, and it's going to just make your training so much better.
I agree with everything that was said. The only thing I'll add, by the way, is a lot of these platforms also have analytics attached to them, right?
Yep.
And so, it's don't just think about it making something that looks pretty or is really interactive. Utilize that analytics as much as possible, because it will help you know what's effective. And some of the stuff can be edited somewhat quickly. And what you can edit, you want to edit if you're seeing that it's not hitting your mark.
Yep.
I want to thank everybody here for joining on today's panel. Super helpful. I love all the work that you guys are doing, and I'm sure that it was really insightful for the team that attended today as well.